When we have fractions, we want to see what we can do to get rid of our fractions. Now, we can't really get rid of our fractions because we're going to end up in a fraction over here. But yeah, this is kind of a mess, isn't it? It's like, where do we start here? We could go various different directions here. We could get a common denominator. So we could multiply the top and bottom of this one by secant and the top and bottom of this one by tangent to get a common denominator. Or we could change everything into sines and cosines here and work till we get over there. I don't know what we want to do. You just got to pick a way and just start going there. So I'm going to say, let's change them into sines and cosines. Let's get that far. Now, secant is 1 over cosine of x. Tangent is sine of x over cosine of x minus tangent is sine over cosine. Secant, we said, was 1 over cosine. Now, we can change the right-hand side, correct? We got to make the left-hand side into the right-hand side. But over on the side, you can go, well, cotangent of x is cosine of x over sine of x. And this is 1 over cosine of x. Okay? So then you can say, well, in the end, if we multiply by cosine of x, I want to get somehow to cosine squared of x over sine of x. If I can get to that, I can get to this. Okay? See what I just did over there? I took the right-hand side, put it in terms of sines and cosines, and simplified it to there just to say, well, if I get the left side to equal that, then I can work backwards to get the left side equal to this. All right, so let's keep going over here. I've got cosine in every single denominator, right? So to get rid of my complex fractions, I multiply by cosine of x. Cancel, 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 cancel. And so what I have is 1 minus sine of x over sine of x. Ooh, Mr. Bierschbach, that's wrong. That's wrong. I have 1 over sine of x minus sine of x over 1 equals cotangent of x over secant of x. How many fractions do I have on this side of the equation? 1. How many fractions do I have on this side? 2. I want to get that down to 1 fraction. How do I get this down to 1 fraction? Well, got to get a common denominator, so multiply top and bottom of this one by sine of x. So I get 1 over sine of x minus sine squared of x over sine of x, which is 1 minus sine squared of x over sine of x. Now it's 1 fraction. All right, so what's 1 minus sine squared equal to? Cosine squared of x over sine of x equals cotangent of x over secant of x. And if we hadn't done this little thing up here, we'd be going, geez, that's not even close. I'm never going to get there. But this matches this, so we know if I go this direction, I can get to there. So how do I go in that direction? Well, here we go. This is how I go in that direction. Now, on the bottom, so what I need to do here is I need to multiply this by 1 over cosine of x over 1 over cosine of x. And you go, Mr. Bierschbach, what did you just do? Well, this is a fraction. And up here, I had a complex fraction. So I'm basically going to create a complex fraction. I'm going to put this fraction over 1. And then I'm going to multiply the top by 1 over cosine and the bottom by 1 over cosine. So, my new numerator, the cosines cancel, right? So I'm going to get cosine of x over sine of x. My new denominator is just 1 times 1 over cosine, which is 1 over cosine of x. And we know cosine over sine is cotangent of x. 1 over cosine is secant of x. We've ramped up just a little bit since Tuesday, haven't we? One really long assignment, yeah. Oh. I'm so evil. Okay. This one. Now, I can't magically turn 1 minus cosine into secant. So, I got to figure out what in the heck I'm going to do. Okay? So, when I see this, I see, well, I have a minus sign down here, and I don't have a minus sign down here. I have a plus sign up here. And so I have to somehow get this from a minus sign to just one thing, and then me to have a plus sign up there somehow. Now, I heard in the back somebody say, well, 1 minus cosine squared is sine squared. All right, we can do that first step. Okay? All right, so we got that. So now I have a minus down here, one thing on top. I have a plus up here, one thing on the bottom. When you see something with a minus down here and no minus down here, but a plus up here, the magic word you got to think of is conjugates. I got to multiply this by its conjugate. So I get just one thing down there. What's the conjugate of 1 minus cosine of x? So I'm going to multiply both the top and the bottom by 1 plus cosine of x. So I'm going to leave this factored out, though, because I know what's coming, because I've done this before. So I'm going to leave this factored out. I'm not going to distribute that. But my denominator, I'm going to multiply through. 1 times 1 is 1. Outers and inners cancel because they're conjugates. Minus cosine squared of x. What's 1 minus cosine squared? We just had that. Sine squared of x. So I have sine squared of x times 1 plus cosine of x over sine squared of x. So what can I do? I have sine squared of x over sine squared of x. What is that? 1. They cancel. So I get 1 plus cosine of x over, I'm going to put a 1 down there for now because I need a fraction, right? So I have something with a plus over 1 and secant of x plus 1. Now, what is secant of x the same as? 1 over cosine. So what if, by chance, I took this times 1 over cosine on the top and the bottom, and I distributed it? I got 1 over cosine of x plus cosine of x over cosine of x over 1 over cosine of x. What's cosine over cosine? That's 1, right? What's 1 over cosine? So I get secant of x plus 1 over secant of x. Oh, look at that. I am a wizard, aren't I? We'll just do one big old lesson today. Here we go again. We're not going to stop yet. I don't think you guys have a great understanding of this quiz quite yet. Okay, since you understand it, Miss Allen, where should we start?
I started on what it equals last time, and I turned it into something easier. So turn like on the other side equal. Do 1 over cosine minus 1, and then take tan squared. Yep. So then when you work
You can't change this, but we can play with this a little bit to what we're going to work to. She's trying to work it backwards here. So then what she probably wants to do next is to multiply by cosine squared x over 1. the denominator of the denominator. Sure, we can do that, Audrey. So Audrey gets cosine squared of x over cosine of x minus cosine squared of x over sine squared of x, which is, yeah, it's fairly complicated yet, but let's just stop right there. And now let's start working with this. Okay, plus sign down here, not a plus sign, but a minus sign up here. That signals in my brain maybe I want to do a conjugate. Yeah. So I'm going to take this times cosine of x minus 1. Okay. So I have cosine of x times cosine of x minus 1 over cosine squared of x minus 1. All right. So cosine squared of x minus 1 is the same as sine squared of x? Thank you. It's negative sine squared of x. Okay? Because sine squared plus cosine squared equals 1. So if I have cosine squared minus 1, that means I moved the 1 to this side and the sine to that side, so it's negative sine squared down there. So, cosine squared of x minus cosine of x over negative sine squared of x. Ooh, I'm really close to this. Because if I would reduce this one right here, I'd get cosine of x minus cosine squared of x over sine squared of x. And see how this is just on top, the reverse of that, and I have a negative sign. So, yep, it looks like if I just reverse the signs by taking the top and bottom times negative 1, I can work my way up to there, which would lead to there. All right, so let's multiply both the top and the bottom by negative 1. So if I multiply by negative 1, I have negative cosine squared of x plus cosine of x over sine squared of x equals secant of x minus tangent over minus 1 over tangent squared of x. All right. So basically, I'm here. To get to the here, what did I do? Well, I multiplied the top and bottom by cosine squared to get rid of the cosine squared there. So if I multiply top and bottom by 1 over cosine squared, I can get basically to where I need to be. So I have to do the reciprocal of what I did here. So I'm going to switch these two around and multiply by 1 over cosine squared of x times cosine of x minus cosine squared of x over sine squared of x times 1 over cosine squared of x. So if I distribute this through here, I get cosine of x over cosine squared of x minus cosine squared of x over cosine squared of x all over tangent. So let's let's make that one more step here. Sine squared of x over cosine squared of x equals secant of x minus 1 over tangent squared of x. Cosine of x over cosine squared of x, if we take a cosine out of each, I get 1 over cosine of x. Cosine squared of x over cosine squared of x is 1. Sine squared over cosine squared is, so I'm really close. So I have secant of x minus 1 over tangent squared of x equals secant of x minus 1 over tangent squared of x. That's taking the right side and manipulating a little bit so I can see where I want to head to on my left-hand side. Okay? Increasing your brain power a little bit. Okay. So, one assignment today. 51 through 56, and then 58, and then 61. Just one assignment today. No.